Ever since Nadia could remember, her brother Rayan had been the center of every room, the kind of man whose confidence filled the air before he even spoke. Teachers adored him, friends followed him, and their parents believed he could do no wrong. Rayan will build an empire one day, their father used to say proudly. And Nadia, you'll help him, won't you? And she did, always. When their parents passed away, Rayan took charge of everything, the house, the finances, even Nadia's dreams. He built his tech company, Rightful Solutions, from the ground up. And while he was signing deals and giving interviews, Nadia worked quietly behind the scenes, designing his company's first logo, his brand identity, even the invitations to his events. She never asked for credit. She only wanted to be useful, to make him proud. But Rayan's praise never came. One rainy afternoon, she sat at her desk, sketching new layouts for his website. Her room was small but filled with light, a contrast to the storm brewing outside. The door creaked open. Rayan stepped in, impeccably dressed, holding his phone like a trophy. "Nadia," he said, glancing at her screen. "You're still doing this freelance thing." She smiled softly. "Yes, I'm working on a design for one of your client pitches." He chuckled, not kindly. "You really need to get a real job, Nadia. Playing with colors on a laptop isn't a career." Her hand froze on the mouse. "I like what I do, bye. It's creative, and it pays enough." "Pays enough," he interrupted, smirking. "That's pocket money. You're nearly 30, Nadia. You should think about doing something serious with your life." He left before she could speak. The sound of the closing door echoed in her chest. She sat still, staring at the half-finished design on her screen. The same brother she once idolized now looked at her, as if she were a child chasing meaningless dreams. Her throat tightened. She blinked away tears that refused to fall, whispering to herself, "I do have a real job, you just don't see it." Outside, thunder rolled through the sky, loud, sharp, and angry. Inside, something within Nadia cracked open, quietly. What Rayan didn't know was that 2 years ago, when Rightful Solutions was collapsing under his bad investments, a silent investor had stepped in to save the company. Rayan never asked who it was. He just signed the documents and took the money. That investor was her. And that secret, her secret, was about to change everything. The night Rayan almost lost his company still lingered in Nadia's memory like a scar. It was 2 years ago, the rain was just as relentless, the air just as heavy. Rayan had sat in the living room, tie loosened, eyes hollow, staring at the empty whiskey glass in his hand. "It's over, Nadia," he had said flatly. "Rightful is done. The merger failed. I'm drowning in debt." She had never seen him like that, broken, vulnerable, human. "Can't someone invest?" she had asked quietly. He laughed bitterly. Who'd invest in a sinking ship? That night, while he slept on the couch, Nadia sat in her room, reading through their late father's will. Among the pages of legal jargon, she found something she'd once overlooked, a dormant financial trust under her name. Alina Trust Holdings. It wasn't massive, but enough to make a difference. Her hands trembled as she called the family lawyer. "Mr. Seed, I want to use the trust to invest," she whispered, but anonymously. He hesitated. "Are you sure? Your brother won't know it's you." "That's the point," she said. "He'd never accept my help, but I can still save him." By morning, the documents were ready. Rayan, desperate to save his dream, sold 60% of his company shares to Alina Trust Holdings. He didn't even ask who was behind it. He just signed, thinking it was some foreign investor. And that's how Nadia became the majority stakeholder of Rightful Solutions, the company her brother proudly called his. For months she watched quietly as he regained his confidence, calling himself a self-made man again. He started driving a new car, giving interviews about reviving his business genius. Every time she saw his name in the papers, her heart filled with both pride and pain. She never wanted power. She only wanted to protect him, to see him rise again. But with success came arrogance. Ryan's tone hardened. He treated employees like tools, dismissed opinions, and ignored kindness. The man she had once looked up to began to fade behind ambition and ego. Every time he spoke down to her, every time he reminded her she wasn't serious enough, her silence grew stronger. Because silence was her shield and secrets her weapon. Late at night, she'd open her folder of company documents and trace her own name hidden behind the corporate trust. She didn't smile, she just sighed. He would never know that the empire he boasted about, the company he claimed as his own, was being held up by the sister he had told to get a real job. The turning point came on a sunny afternoon. That should have been ordinary. The office of Rightex Solutions was buzzing with chatter, deadlines, and the faint hum of coffee machines. Nadia had come by to deliver a set of design drafts for a new campaign, something she'd done dozens of times before. But that day, something felt different. As she entered the conference room, she saw her best friend, Amna, standing at the head of the table, her voice steady but defiant. "With all due respect, sir," Amna was saying, "the proposal is rushed. The clients won't like it. We should refine the model before presenting." Rayan sat opposite her, face cold, eyes sharp. "Are you questioning my decision?" Amna didn't flinch. "I'm suggesting a better one." A heavy silence fell. The staff exchanged nervous glances. Then Rayan's voice turned to ice. "You're fired." The word sliced through the air. Amna froze, disbelief clouding her face. "Sir, pack your things. I don't pay people to argue with me." Nadia's breath caught in her throat. She stepped forward instinctively. "Rayan, please." He didn't even look at her. "This is company business, Nadia. You wouldn't understand." Amna walked past her quietly, eyes glassy but proud. Nadia felt her heart sink. That evening, she went straight to Rayan's office. The sun had set, painting the windows in gold and shadow. He sat behind his desk typing, pretending she wasn't there. "You humiliated her," Nadia said softly. She was only doing her job. He leaned back, sighing with exaggerated patience. "Nadia, don't start. You don't know how corporate decisions work. I know enough to see when something's unfair," she said, voice trembling. He laughed short and sharp. "Unfair? That's business, not your little world of colors and creativity. You'll never understand this. Maybe it's time you stopped wasting your life," and he smirked. "I'll get a real job." The same words, again, but this time they didn't just hurt, they broke something inside her. She looked at him, the man she once idolized, and saw nothing but arrogance and blindness. The silence between them stretched long and bitter. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, almost too calm. "All right, bye. You're right, I'll get a real job." He didn't notice the meaning behind her words. He just waved her off. That night, back in her apartment, Nadia sat in the dark with her laptop open. The soft glow of the screen lit her face as she pulled up her legal folder. The documents were waiting, signed, sealed, undeniable. Her name, her ownership, her power. Her lawyer's message blinked at the top of her inbox. "MS Nadia Rahman, are you ready to publicly disclose your ownership?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She thought of all the times Rayan had belittled her, laughed at her dreams, ignored her loyalty. Then she typed a single word, "Yes." Her decision was no longer born of hurt. It was born of justice. Tomorrow, the world would finally know who the real power behind Rightex Solutions was, and Rayan would learn the meaning of a real job. The next morning, Rightex Solutions buzzed with anticipation. The annual board meeting, the company's biggest event of the year, had everyone on edge. Executives, investors, and department heads filled the glossy conference hall, murmuring about new strategies and expansion plans. Rayan walked in late, as usual, wearing his expensive navy suit, his confidence radiating like armor. He loved these moments, the attention, the applause, the illusion of control. "Good morning, everyone," he said with his signature grin. "Let's begin. We have some big plans to discuss." But before he could continue, the board's legal advisor cleared his throat. "Before we begin, Mr. Rahman, we have an announcement from the majority stakeholder." Rayan frowned. "Majority stakeholder, that's me." The double doors at the end of the room opened, and in walked Nadia. She wasn't wearing her usual soft colors or shy smile. Today, she was all steel and grace, a black suit, tied, back hair, and quiet fire in her eyes. Rayan blinked, confused. "Nadia, what are you?" She walked calmly to the front of the room, placed a folder on the table, and turned to the board. "My name is Nadia Rahman," she said clearly. "I am the majority stakeholder of Rightex Solutions. I own 60% of this company." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then whispers rippled through the room like shockwaves. Rayan's face went pale. "That's ridiculous. I sold those shares to Alina Trust Holdings years ago." Nadia met his gaze. "Yes, and Alina Trust Holdings belongs to me." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Rayan, the man who had built his image on pride, now standing speechless before the sister he once mocked. Nadia continued, her voice steady. "From today, I'll be assuming my rightful role in company decisions, not to destroy what you built, Rayan, but to fix what you've broken." He stared at her, disbelief turning to anger. "You planned this, you wanted to humiliate me." She shook her head softly. "No, bye. I wanted to protect you. I saved this company when you couldn't. But you never saw me not as a partner, not as family. Just someone who needed a real job." Her words struck deeper than any revenge could. Rayan sank into his chair, the weight of his arrogance crashing down all at once. Around them, the board members sat in stunned silence, witnessing a moment that felt less like victory and more like truth. Nadia turned to the room. "We move forward together, with respect, with honesty, and without ego." She gathered her papers, nodded politely to the board, and walked out, leaving Rayan staring after her, speechless. Later that evening, he found her in her new office, overlooking the city skyline. She didn't turn when he entered. "You've taken everything from me," he said quietly. "No," she replied. "I gave you a second chance. Now it's up to you what you do with it." He hesitated, then sighed. "I'm sorry, Nadia. I was wrong about you." She finally looked at him, her expression softening. "I never wanted revenge, bye. I just wanted respect, and maybe now you'll finally see what a real job looks like." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I see it now." As he left, the city lights reflected in her window, a mosaic of gold and silver shimmering like hope. Nadia smiled faintly, whispering to herself, "I told you, I already had a real job. I was saving yours."